Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We have a busy docket, and well, I just found out I have to be in court rather quickly, and I just found out 15 minutes ago on a new case, so let's get straight to the docket. First, the husband of the deceased cinematographer from the Rust movie, that's right, he's taking some shots at Alec Baldwin. The preliminary hearing continues for the Crumbleys parents. Deliberations continue for the former police officers there in Minneapolis. Has the creepy man been identified by Utah police? And the alleged person responsible for the DoorDash homicide, guess what? He's allegedly 16 years old. And even church is not safe. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Crime Talk. My name is Scott Reich. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so, hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell so you make sure you get notifications of when we go live or put up new content. Leave me a comment below. And as always, remember, you can listen to this podcast as well as any of our previous podcasts simply by downloading us on your favorite podcasting app. Just look for Crime Talk with Scott Reich. All right, let's get to the docket. First, the husband of the cinematographer shot and killed by Alec Baldwin blasted the actor for shifting blame and making himself sound like a victim, despite having been the one to pull the trigger. Now, Matt Hutchins, widow of Halyna Hutchins, said, and hearing him blame Halyna in the interview and shift responsibility to others and seeing him cry about it, I just feel like we are really supposed to feel bad about you, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Hutchins, who was married to Halyna for 14 years, said watching the interview of Baldwin made him angry because he was talking about his wife's death so publicly and detailed, then does not accept any responsibility after basically describing him killing her. Now, in an interview in December, Baldwin said someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but it's not me. Hutchinson hit back saying the idea that the person holding the gun and causing it to discharge is not responsible is absurd to him. Mr. Hutchins also said that gun safety was not the only problem on the set of Rust. There were a number of industry standards that were not practiced, and there's multiple responsible parties. Now, the widower, who has a 9-year-old son named Andros with his late wife, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Baldwin on February 15th. The suit, which alleges at least 15 safety practices that were disregarded on the set, argues a wider cost-cutting culture ultimately led to Halyna's death. We'll continue to see, and we brought you the story the other day, that the district attorney there in Santa Fe apparently is kind of believing Mr. Baldwin. So there may not be any criminal charges, and obviously we'll give Mr. Baldwin the presumption of innocence, but the civil side, it's a much lower standard, simply a preponderance of the evidence. All right, next on the docket, the preliminary hearing continues for the Crumbleys. As you may recall, it was started several weeks ago, and now they're resuming. A preliminary examination for Jennifer and James Crumbley resumed in Rochester Hills District Court before a judge who will decide if there's enough evidence to send the couple to trial for involuntary manslaughter. They're also accused of failing to intervene when their son showed signs of mental distress at home and at school. Now, defense attorneys today asked Oakland County Sheriff Detective Edward Wagrowski whether he thought Jennifer and James Crumbley were aware their son was planning the shooting. And as we've talked about, that is the key issue. Well, videos and texts between Ethan and his friend Brady in August show Ethan with a gun and inviting Brady to a gun range, according to text from Shannon Smith, Jennifer Crumbley's attorney. The friend is saying things like, "Nice, now pull the trigger, JK, JK, JK," Smith said, which means just kidding. Now, Wagrowski, who explained that JK is shorthand for just kidding, responded about how his dad left the gun out, but Ethan knows gun safety, so it's not a problem. And then he says, now it's time to shoot up the school. JK, 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 Smith said. Now, Smith agreed that there were texts sent to Ethan's friend, but no conversations like this were ever sent to the mother. Prosecutors alluded to a disconnect between Ethan and his parents. Ethan said in a text in April of 2021 saying, "Now my mom thinks I take drugs. Like she thinks the reason why I'm so mad and sad all the time is because I take drugs, and she doesn't worry about my mental health. They make me feel like I'm the problem." Now, a day before the shooting, the school left a voicemail for Jennifer Crumbly informing her that the teacher was concerned that Ethan had searched for ammunition online using a phone. A sheriff's office computer crimes investigator testified at the February 8th hearing, previous preliminary hearing, that she later asked her son in a text if he at least showed school officials a photo of the gun the parents gave Ethan as an early Christmas gift. Now, on the morning of the shooting, Ethan's parents were summoned to the school and confronted with his drawings, which included a handgun and the words, "The thoughts won't stop, help me." Authorities said the parents refused to take him home after the 13-minute meeting and were told to get him counseling. The Crumbleys attorneys have insisted the couple didn't know their son might be planning an attack and didn't make the gun easy to find in their home. The Crumbleys are jailed on a $500,000 bond. Now, I know this is not a popular opinion, but I think it's one based upon the law. The prosecution has to show that the parents knew something was going to take place and that they actually were helping him do it. Not just looking back, hindsight 2020, saying you could have done more to prevent it. It's that you knew what was going to take place. That is what our law, our legal system is defined to do. Based upon what I've heard so far, I just don't see it. The question is, will the judge have the actual guts to say, I get it. I understand there's a lot of people that are in pain and they're suffering and people want people to be held accountable. But think about it, ladies and gentlemen, all the mass shootings that have taken place. How many families, how many parents have ever been prosecuted? None until now, right? Because they haven't been able to show that the parents actively participated. That's the key. You may not like it, but that's the law. All right. George Floyd 2.0. Jurors resumed deliberations Thursday in the trial of the 3 former Minneapolis police officers. We're not going to go into all the facts again. We all know them, but the jurors met for about 7 hours Wednesday, the first day of deliberations, with no decisions as it relates to Alex Koenig, Thomas Lane, and Tao Tao. The jurors are not sequestered. Lane, Koenig, and Tao also face a separate trial in June on state charges alleging that they aided and abetted murder and manslaughter. Once again, I think that's a little weak as well. I told you yesterday, I think this is going to be a difficult case for the jurors. They're probably back there struggling. If I was a betting man, I'd think maybe hung jury. We'll see. Okay, let's move to Utah. Have the police identified the creepy man? Well, let's take a look. As you may recall, the bodies of Crystal Turner and Kylene Schulte were found August 18th of 2021 at a campsite outside of Moab. Now, both women had multiple gunshots to their backs, sides, and chest. Now, documents have been released regarding the murder that shine new light on a possible suspect. Friends of the newlywed couple told police that Schulte had mentioned a creepy man around their camp that night. Hours before the couple's bodies were found, a Grand County Sheriff's deputy made a traffic stop of a car displaying an Ohio license plate. The driver apparently had a Utah driver's license and lived in the Moab area, according to the warrant documents. Now, the deputy said the man who was unnerving that the veteran law enforcement officer decided not to write the speeding ticket as he did not want to take his eyes off the man. The warrant said the deputy felt the man acted oddly for being pulled over for a speeding, and he had a combination of a euphoria and that he had been caught doing something wrong. When questioned by officials on August 18th, the man reportedly made vague references when asked direct questions and stared vacantly at the person talking to him and answered in a non-committal way. The man admitted to having seen Schulte at the Moonflower Market, where he had been hired just days earlier, and rambled when asked about his interactions with her. When asked if he had killed Schulte and Turner, the man said he did not. After officials told the man they were investigating their deaths, he swallowed but had no other outward signs of nervousness or surprise. He did not shift stance. He looked from the second investigator to the other investigator. His carotid artery did not pulse and his chest did not move quickly. The man could not give details on his exact whereabouts on the night of the murders. He also declined a request to search the car. Now, due to the man's behavior and inability to account for his whereabouts, the documents say law enforcement should explore this avenue of inquiry. Well, an interesting issue, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Just because somebody doesn't act nervous when they ask if you killed somebody, well, maybe that's because he didn't do it. You know, in the words of Freud, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. You can't read much into it. However, when you start getting into these observations of they didn't act nervous or that you somehow can imply guilt, may I draw your attention to the Barry Morphew case, where none of that stuff is admissible at all because it's irrelevant. It's speculation. Maybe enough to get a warrant to further investigate, but not sure it's going to be enough to get a warrant. And if they thought he did it, he'd be charged by now. We'll wait and see. Obviously, we want the family to have peace, but we don't want to prosecute innocent people either, do we? No, we don't. All right. Next, remember the DoorDash story we brought you the other day? Well, the Baltimore PD announced that they have arrested a teenager in connection to the fatal shooting of the DoorDash driver and mother of 3 in January. The 16-year-old turned himself into police yesterday. The name of the suspect has not been released, but he is facing first-degree murder charges. As you may recall, the DoorDash driver, Cheryl McCormick, 51, was with a male friend making deliveries around 2 a.m. when she ran out of gas. As the pair left the car to start to walk to get the gas, they were approached by 2 people. According to the male friend, they tried to take McCormick's wallet and purse, but she wouldn't give it up. Then they shot her. Medics pronounced McCormick deceased at the scene, but her friend survived the incident. Surveillance video from a nearby business showed the 2 teen suspects in the killing, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives offered a $5,000 reward for information leading to the teens' identities. To walk up to somebody at that time of night, rob them, pull a gun on them for no reason, and shoot them, well, that seems pretty senseless. McCormick's friends previously said in a statement, now, Baltimore has one of the highest murder rates in the country since 2015. The city has continuously reported more than 300 homicides every year. In 2021, there were 337 reported homicides, according to the Baltimore Police Department. Senseless indeed. But guess what? Somebody in Tennessee said, hold my beer. Authorities in Tennessee are looking for a group of women who robbed a 78-year-old woman while she was praying in church. That's right. The Clarksville police said the incident took place on February 9th at around 6 p.m. inside the sanctuary at the Hilldale Baptist Church. The elderly woman was praying when 2 women approached her, asked for prayers as well. While praying, the second woman went into the elderly woman's purse and stole her credit cards, cash, and gift cards. Investigators say the suspects almost immediately used the credit cards at Sam's Club and Kroger. The trip to Sam's Club was captured on surveillance. Senior pastor Larry Robertson said that the woman came to the church 50 minutes before evening service, which he thought was a little odd. The woman told him that they were visiting from another church. He then pointed them to the sanctuary where a pre-service prayer meeting was going to start in about 20 minutes. The 78-year-old victim, a longtime church member, also arrived early and took her seat in the sanctuary. Robertson said the taller girl with red dreadlocks, she called herself Jade, voiced the prayer, while the other girl, who called herself Kesha, took the lady's wallet from her purse and removed the cash and credit gift cards. When Kesha had finished, Jade finished the prayer. They excused themselves and exited the building. The victims noticed her missing card and cash and immediately told the pastor, who said he was sickened and angered by the incident. He said the victim is doing well but feels violated. The pastor also said he hopes the woman will be prosecuted and doesn't believe that contradicts his faith. What do you say about that, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go rob the 78-year-old woman in church. What the hell is wrong with the world? And I know this has always gone on, but it just seems like we hear more and more about it. Anyway, hopefully they'll be prosecuted. We'll give them the presumption of innocence. Yeah, right. And then they should go to prison for taking things that don't belong to them from a 78-year-old woman. unbelievable. Please go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to crimetalksearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. Next, a Florida man, our dumb criminal, Darren Durant, walked into a True Value store with a crutch and was caught on surveillance stealing a pair of cutting tools. He then has made his way to the crossbow section and cut the zip ties of a Raven R10 crossbow, which has a value of $1,300, and shoved it down his sweatpants. He takes a quick look around to see if anyone saw him. He then tries to limp out of the store. Yes, believe it or not, he actually made it out of the store with the stolen weapon, but was caught 2 days later by police. He tried running away despite having a crutch in the store 2 days prior. You mean somebody lied about their physical condition in order to get away with a crime and draw sympathy? Oh my gosh, I am shocked. Well, needless to say, he didn't get far before he was arrested. He's currently in custody on 8 unrelated burglary charges, but he will face charges in the Brevard County for the crossbow theft after all those other cases are resolved. The sheriff wrote about this incident on a Facebook post and ended with, "You just can't make this stuff up." Apparently the sheriff must be watching Crime Talk as well, because that's what we've been saying for years. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.